A very warm welcome to you all. Good afternoon and good morning. It is morning for you in Malaysia. It is mid-afternoon here in New Zealand. A warm hello again to my good friends from the Productivity Corporation, a number of whom I have worked with previously on a number of times. We had a previous attempt to have this session and I circulated my presentation at that time. My understanding is, please indicate if this is so, that you will actually control the slides for the presentation from your end in Malaysia, and I'll indicate the point at which to change slides. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, you're right, Mark.
Thank you very much. Yes, and that's good. I'll proceed. If you move to the next slide, please. I think it helps to understand some of the context that we face in New Zealand when relating our experiences here. As you know, we are a small open economy. We are very far from all of our trading and business partners. So far, in fact, that even though it's a 10-hour flight from Auckland in New Zealand to Malaysia, Malaysia is still, by our standards, a relatively near neighbour. So we face great challenges of being both small and isolated. Most of our organisations, whether they are businesses or whether they are public sector organisations or whether they are non-governmental organisations, are small by international standards. Many of them are very small. They do not have the resources and the specialisation to cope well with regulatory burdens. So we have to be very conscious of the kind of burdens that we are placing on our organisations. Fortunately for us, we do have a few advantages as well. We have a government that is regarded as competent, open, and low in corruption. We are currently #1 in the Transparency International Index, which measures those kinds of things. And we are fortunate enough to have an electronic environment which has wide and deep penetration. So in New Zealand, we have widespread access to the internet, we have electronic banking, we have cloud accounting, we have widespread mobile devices. So we can work on delivering our services through these information technology platforms. One of the things I would like to keep stressing is that we have found in New Zealand that there's no single silver bullet, if you like, that unlocks the door to lower cost regulation for business. It's important for government to do quite a lot of things well. And I'll talk briefly about what the range of these things are. Could you put up the next slide, please? The first of these things is taking the burdens out of our legislation. Over the last 25 to 30 years, we have been through a prolonged process of gradually overhauling our legislation. And this has involved repealing or amending a very, very large body of legislation with the effort of simplifying the requirements for our businesses. If you go to the next slide, please. So in the company law example, we have, for instance, removed our requirements for common seals, for memorandum and articles of association. We've removed requirements for declarations of compliance. We've removed requirements to hold an office of company secretary. We've removed concepts of par value, authorised capital and issued capital. The drive of our legislative reform has been, if a requirement is not absolutely necessary, get rid of it. Next slide, please. At the same time, we have sought as early as possible to deploy digital technologies, and we are continuing to do so. This has been in partnership with our business clients and stakeholders. So we have only been able to move at the speed at which our partners in business can also move. So there's been a continuing conversation over the last 20 years about how fast we can actually introduce digital technology. Sometimes we are ahead of business, sometimes business is ahead of us. Next slide, please. This slide actually gives you a picture of the different kinds of things that we brought together to actually make the regulatory experience easier for business. As well as the legislative changes I've already talked about, we actually moved all of our registry information and requirements online. We built a special portal for small and medium enterprises that's called business.govt.nz. We changed our funding model to make sure that the burden of any fees was equitably shared amongst the different kinds of businesses. We did most of these things in close partnership with our stakeholders in the business community. We've invested in staff training and skill sets. One of the things that I do emphasize to those who are interested in the New Zealand experience is, in the end, it is important to have high levels of skill at the front line amongst the regulators, because in the end, central agencies cannot do these functions for the agencies that run these systems. We put a lot of effort into improving our staff culture and into making it a service culture instead of a bureaucratic culture. And we worked on our operating model to reach international standards organization levels of practice so that we can achieve ISO certification. So it has been a matter of getting all of those things right and working well to deliver a really high quality experience for the businesses that work with us. Can I have the next slide, please? We've certainly managed to achieve some positive recognition from the international community. We have, if you are a follower of the rankings at all, achieved the #1 ranking in the world for starting a business and the #1 ranking in the world for overall ease of doing business. One experience that we have had is that we possibly became a little too preoccupied with ease of doing business and the ease of starting a business per se, and in focusing so much on that metric, we forgot about some of the other important things about our business regulation, which is that the quality of the information that gets registered needs to be high quality as well. So what we've had to do in the last 10 to 15 years is invest a bit more in ensuring that the business information that we have on New Zealand Business Services is actually high quality, that it has integrity. So we have, at the same time as we're investing in ease of business, invested in ensuring that there is compliance, and that if compliance doesn't take place, then businesses can expect to be removed from our business registers. Can I have the next slide, please? In New Zealand, we have developed a cluster of programs that are designed to actually improve the business experience of regulation. We have a team of people who are known as the Better for Business team, and their specific goal, they are actually housed in the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, which is the ministry that I work in. Their specific goal is to improve the business experience of regulation and to coordinate activity across many different agencies to ensure that all of our agencies are working along the same lines. At the same time, we actually have another team who are known as Business Connect, whose specific role is to look at particular processes like the licensing processes that were mentioned previously, to actually make those licensing processes as simple as possible to work with. We have another group who are known as business.govt.nz, Their role is to make the online information that we provide to businesses about how to work with the New Zealand government as simple and effective as possible. And so they provide a range of tools to our businesses to help them navigate their way through government requirements and to make compliance with them as easy as possible. And finally, we have another initiative which is called the New Zealand Business Number. And this initiative, which is still in the process of being rolled out, is an initiative which will enable every business in New Zealand, through the use of the New Zealand Business Number, to provide their information to government once and once only. So, for example, if you have a New Zealand Business Number, you don't need to provide your information separately to the Tax Department, to the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, to the Customs Department, and so on and so on. Each government agency will be able to access your New Zealand Business Number and see your information there. And you are able to control that information and update it so that you can control both, firstly, how much government agencies see, and secondly, update it regularly to reflect changes in your business. Can I have the next slide, please? And what we try to do is make these initiatives work together. I suggest that if you want to get a sense of how business.govt.nz operates, it is helpful simply to go on to the business.govt.nz website to get a sense of the range of tools which this particular website offers to businesses, and particularly small businesses in New Zealand. It enables you to both link up with a whole range of government organisations, from tax to employment to trade, and at the same time it also gives you tools for dealing with different kinds of business processes, such as employment agreements, for example, that comply with New Zealand legislation. Next slide, please. New Zealand Business Number means that, as I said, the amount of information that you have to provide is minimal, and you don't need to provide it again and again and again. The onus is on our government agencies to work with the New Zealand Business Number and to ensure that they can actually do what they need to do with businesses that use the New Zealand Business Number. Next slide, please. Business Connect is aimed, as I mentioned before, mainly at licensing processes. One of the things that we find New Zealand businesses find very frustrating is that many of our licensing processes, this is, for example, if you want to run a shop in a local business district, require you to work with multiple organisations and go backwards and forwards between them. Business Connect specifically aims to make those processes as simple as possible. Next slide, please. Oh, that is the last slide. So that's a very rapid and brief look at the kind of things that New Zealand has done and is doing to improve the ease of doing business in New Zealand. As I said, my main theme from the New Zealand experience is the importance of making progress on several fronts at once to actually improve the experience for business. There's no one thing that we would point to that makes the experience for business easier. It's a product of doing a whole range of things well. Thank you very much.
Initiatives in New Zealand. I am sure some of the members have heard the presentation is very loud and clear over here. I would like to invite members who are present today to post any questions to Mr. Mark Steele that you may have. Thank you. Anyone?
Can I ask Mr. Steele? I'm Rahman. Hello, Mr. Steele, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Rahman. I just got the second part of your presentation only. Anyway, about the integration of your services by the government to the private sector, you mentioned that there are multiple organizations that you have to simplify the processes. My question is, number one, is there any renewal of licenses required? Number one. Number two, is there any subscription fees or other charges for the private sector to pay to the government? Thank you.
I'll deal with your second question first.
Okay.
Yes, there are registration fees and subscription fees of various kinds. We have, however, tried to keep costs down by taking two approaches. One is to eliminate requirements. If you go back to the company law example slide, what we found in New Zealand is that government agencies were charging for compliance with a whole range of the things that you see on the company law example slide. By eliminating these requirements, we also eliminated the charges as well. So you have only one charge for registering a company, not half a dozen. At the same time, what we have also introduced is quite specific rules in New Zealand which require departments to justify why they are charging the fee that they are charging. So departments need to use a common methodology and they need to disclose to New Zealand businesses how the charges that they are asking for are comprised. So they have to show what their labour costs are, what their information technology costs are, so that business is actually able to engage in a conversation about whether those charges are justified or not. So each time you change a fee, for example, you are required to justify that change both to ministers and the public and actually detail what the sources of the changes are. So I think that's the answer to the question about charges. I'm sorry, could you repeat your first question again, please?
No, I clarify my question. I noticed that you said 99.9% of the registrations are digitalized, right? Digitized.
Yes.
Do you have a single platform to integrate all the multiple organizations in your government to assist the company to start?
Yes, that is business.govt.nz. And what we have been progressively doing is integrating to a greater and greater degree the various requirements. One of our biggest steps forward was integrating the obtaining of your tax numbers and your tax registration with the rest of our business registration system. Historically, we have always had a tax department which has been very separate from the rest of our government in New Zealand, but now business.govt.nz actually brings together taxation and other requirements.
So there's no exception. For example, under this single platform, you have income tax, employee provident fund, local government, city council registration, all done in this one single platform, right? Digitally. Am I right?
And you can go through that one single platform, yes. In some cases, you are linked through by hyperlink to where some specific details are required, but we are progressively simplifying and integrating the system further. So it's still a work in progress, but the objective and the operating model is that we will get to the point where you do need to interact with government completely only through one platform.
Okay, Chairman, Mr. Steele, one more question. Who handled this platform? Who handled this platform? Your ministry or a private sector?
It is my ministry.
Under your ministry, okay. According to the World Bank, to start a business in New Zealand, it only takes half a day. You know, and in Malaysia, about 9 days, you know.
Yeah.
So we are trying to learn from you. How can you reduce from 9 days to just half a day to start a business?
And our experience is eliminate unnecessary requirements and be prepared to ask hard questions about whether requirements really are necessary or not. And digital.
That's the only way to go to reduce that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, very much so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steele. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. That was Tan Sri Rahman Mamat. He's the co-chair for our technical working group on starting a business with co-chairing with Mampu, Malaysian Manpower Planning Unit. We also have today with us the secretary, the company commission members from there. Anybody has any question? Anybody has anything to ask Mr. Mark Steele? Mr. Mark Steele, can we?
Dato', sorry, Dato', I have a question, Dato'.
Yes, please, Kairon.
Hi, my name is Kairon. I'm from the Companies Commission of Malaysia. Mr. Steele, I would just like to know how was your experience in, I realized that you've taken away the requirement for company secretary. Could you share us the experience of the journey that you went through and the processes that you went through to get rid of the processes for the company secretary? Thank you so much.
When we amended our law to, amongst other things, get rid of the Office of Company Secretary, we did, as we usually do in New Zealand, have a consultation process with the businesses that were affected. And because there were quite extensive changes, the ones that you see in my presentation are only some of the changes that we made to our company and securities law. We did allow for a transition period to allow businesses time to make the changes and adjust. So I think it is important to sit down with your businesses and understand what their needs are when they're going to go through this kind of change process, because they have processes that are built around the existing requirements. And what the transition period will be will depend on your particular circumstances in Malaysia.
I've got a question, Dato'.
Yeah, please, Ganesh.
Thank you. Yeah, Mark, I noticed that you have the system for a single number for the company, right? In terms of security, how do you manage that? How do you authenticate the companies when they access your services?
There is a process you have to go through. Rather than try and explain that, can I suggest that I ask my colleagues in the New Zealand Business Number team to send a description of the process to Bermuda. I think that'll probably be the most helpful way of answering your question. I'd hate to get the technical details wrong.
Sure. Yeah, that would be helpful for us to understand how you did it. And does that number also go through cross services? So I guess used by other ministries as well, right? Was it very difficult to get the other ministries to start using it? And what was your experience around it?
Yes, that's correct. We have a staged schedule for adoption. So we started off with the agencies and ministries that interacted the most with business, but progressively over a period of a few years, all government agencies are required to use the New Zealand Business Number, and that process should be complete by next year.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ganesh. That was our newly minted Malaysia Bill Gates Productive.Asia, right? Congratulations. Anybody has anything else? Tan Sri Rahman, you got something?
One more question. My last question.
No worry.
Can you share with us, Mark, the process from whatever ranking you were before to number 1? How many years it takes? Do you remember? To digitize the service.
It took us only a relatively few years to get from, I recall in the 1990s, we were perhaps about number 10 or 12 or something like that. And we managed to get to number 1 quite easily, but I think we had the advantage that we were amongst the first to digitalize. My experience, I do say to other countries that the advantage that you have is that you may be able to skip some steps that we went through. So you may be able to go through the process faster than we did.
So digitalization is a game changer.
Yes, it very much is.
Thank you, Dr. Andy.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri. Tan Sri is a strong promoter of digitalization in the e-government. We hope to achieve more through that. Now, maybe I have a question, Mr. Mark Steele. What was said that we could register a business within half a day in New Zealand? That means to say in the morning I go in to register, by lunchtime I can sign a contract. Is that literally that way?
Yes, that's correct. In fact, the only thing you wouldn't need to do is you wouldn't need to go in anywhere because you can do it entirely online.
I see. So I will put in the approval by hopefully before lunch. I make an appointment with a business partner.
Yes. Yes. If you start at 9 a.m.
Yeah. So how do you do away with this M&A? You make on your slide, you say the memorandum of article of association is made redundant. You mean redundant means totally do without it, or it's available but at the back end or somewhere?
One of the things that we have done is, yes, we have completely done away with it. And one of the things that businesses have found useful is that if you do not want to create a company constitution for yourself, we have a schedule to the Act which gives you a default constitution. So what you can do, for example, is simply say, I'll simply use the default constitution which is in the schedules to the New Zealand Companies Act. So we've actually said, if you don't want to do anything more complicated than that, you don't have to.
Okay, because normally when we read an M&A, right, of an article of association of company, we also find out that a lot of pages of the items, the clauses are all repeated the same. The only thing different is the choice of the type of business that you specify. Otherwise, you are allowed to do A to Z business according to that article. And I feel that it is just repeating this template where everybody knows it's just a waste of time getting it, what they call endorse and stamp and all that. Thank you very much. Maybe this is some area that we can actually improve, Tan Sri Raman, where they've got rid of the redundant information which the government already have in any case.
Yeah. Coordination of ministries and agencies are very, very important.
Yeah. I also realized that we have a similar thing called my company ID, where we also at one time introduced it through Bermuda, that we have one single identity number to do business, and everybody recognize from registering the business right until the whole life cycle of the business, where income tax and everybody will use the same number rather than reinvent their own number, which they can actually, if you digitalize the business, you can always have cross-reference on those numbers within your organization without having to reinvent too many numbers. This is something that we feel to achieve much better, Sri Raman, which Australia and New Zealand has under NZBN, which is something to learn.
One additional question to Dr. Steele, Mr. Steele. Do you have a similar organization like Bermuda in New Zealand?
No, we do not. we have a number of liaison and consultation forums with business, but we don't have I understand that Pemuda is what we would call a peak body, which is the voice of all of Malaysian business. We don't have anything like that.
How about a modernization agency like Mampu? Modernization agency dedicated to modernize the government and the private sector services. Do you have a similar one?
We have a public sector commission, which plays a leadership role in ensuring that all of our agencies are continuing to modernize.
What do you call that agency again? Public?
It is the Public Service Commission.
Or Public Service Commission. Okay. Is our like our JPA, Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam, Dr. Andy?
Yes, we have JPA.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Steele, one question while you're on the line. I have been to New Zealand with Dato' Latif and the team, and we were very impressed with some of the initiatives you have, especially also with dealing with construction permit. At that time, we are way behind. We are almost triple digit position, but today we are number 2. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to learn from you. We are number 2 out of 190 economies on dealing with construction permit. There are a lot of good initiatives in Australia that we can pick up. And one of the areas that we have, we are still toying around in Malaysia is the data, for example, movable assets and non-movable assets. I remember you or your colleagues where you say that there is registration of movable assets. That means, vehicles, bicycles, or trucks or whatever, books or arts. Then you have the non-movable assets like land, property, and things like that. You have a registry for that. Is that within your organization or within somebody else's organization?
The Personal Property Securities Registry, which is our registry of movable assets, that is within the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, along with the business registries. The land registry is actually the responsibility of Land Information New Zealand, which is a separate agency.
But I understand that is this a privately run? This database are kept in a privately managed company, or is it under the government agencies?
The PPSA is under a government agency, but what we do is we allow open access to most of the data in the PPSA so that private businesses are able to use it and provide other services to customers that customers are prepared to pay for.
Okay, so that it's a payable service, and also the owner of all this property, are they entitled to go in and update those information themselves, or they have to go back to the agency to get it updated?
They can update the information themselves, and you can do all of this through your cell phone now.
Okay, so it's a subscriber basis, a subscription basis type of a database.
Yes, the fees now for using the PPSA are very low indeed. They're literally down to $1 or $2 New Zealand dollars.
Okay, thank you very much. That means it's still running and we can learn something from there. You see, one of the big issues in Malaysia is also trying to get data that are very silo in some ministries. Even ministries themselves will not share some of the information that they already have, or somebody can get this information. But this is where we feel data is very important, especially when we dealing with construction permit, for example, which we learned from your country, is that those data from the electricity board, utilities are readily available to the public without even having to get a consultant to look at it. They can just go to the site and pick those information. But today in Malaysia, we need to improve on those data as well, data sharing as well. Yeah, thank you. So anybody has anything from SSM or any members have anything else to ask Mr. Mark Steele?
Terima kasih Datuk Sekretari.
Yes,
Terima kasih
thank
Datuk
you.
Sekretari. Can you hear me?
Go on.
From Inland Revenue Board.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mark?
I can.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask about your T Taritake. Is that how to pronounce your tax department? T Taritake?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in this initial stage for the business registration, we would like to know what are the functions or transactions involve your tax department. For example, in Malaysia, we need the information from the business to first register their file in the Inland Revenue Department. Another one is for the business to start paying their first installment for the tax, corporate tax. So what is your Taritake function in the initial stage for this starting of the business?
In New Zealand, it's very simple because you can obtain the thing that you need to do is obtain your unique tax number. And you can do that at the same time as you register your business. And at that stage, you don't need to do anything else. I think, as I mentioned before, the most helpful thing I can do is to send Bermuda a description of how our processes work. And then you'll be able to see in detail how we make it happen. And I'm happy to do that.
So you mean your tax unique number is different from the business registration number?
Yes, it is. And that's one thing we haven't completely integrated yet, but you can obtain it at the same time as you register your business. And your business number will be able to use by our tax department to register not register you, to actually work with you from then on as well. So your business number information also contains your tax number information, so the two talk to each other.
So when they access the business.government.nz, the business will get two numbers.
Yes, yes, at the moment they do. And one of our objectives is to reach the point where we don't need to do that anymore.
When will that happen? Once the integration
that's a very good question, and one that we would like to ask our colleagues at the tax department ourselves.
Okay. Other than the tax unique registration number, what else the tax department function in the initial stage? Is there any other transaction?
Nothing to start off with. So the requirements when you start off are minimal. Now, when you start working your way through business.govt.nz, it will provide you with help in setting up things like your payroll and things like that. And of course, once you start paying taxes, then you will have to have further dealings with the tax department. But at the beginning, all you need is your tax number.
Okay, for the World Bank rating, do they take only the registration function by tax department, not any other things from tax department?
I'm sorry, I missed that. The sound broke up there for a moment.
From World Bank view, their rating, they are taking a period of 30 days whereby within that period, there are other functions being taken up by tax department. So if you are saying that the only function regarding tax department is only providing the unique tax number, that means there's no other function by tax department to be rated by World Bank, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Maxim.
Okay, if that is all, we would like to, no other questions for anybody else. We would like to thank Mr. Mark Steele for
Sorry, Dato'.
spending. Yes,
Sorry,
oh,
Dato', can I
Aaron,
just have
you have
one?
something? Yes,
Yep.
okay, all right, quick one. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Dato'. Sorry, Mr. Steele, just one last question. I believe New Zealand does not have a specific identity number, like a national identity number. So what is, how is it that your businesses, the identity that they register with when they want to register a business? Thank you.
What we have is a system for verification of identity, which you're quite right, because we don't have a national identity number for our population. Our New Zealand business number did need to have a way of verifying your identity to deal with security issues. And once again, I think the best way I can help you with that is to get our New Zealand business number team to send you material which will describe how that works.
So thank you so much for ladies and gentlemen for your questions to Mr. Mark Steele, and thank you Mr. Mark Steele for being very open. Dato' Latif would like to have a quick word with you to thank you. All right, thank you for sharing your information anyway. All right, Dato' Latif.
Thank you very much, for your sharing. We appreciate very much. We have been working very closely, with our friends in New Zealand. In fact, the last time we went over, we met you. All right, we met you at your ministry, and we look forward to this meeting, the ASEAN OECD meeting, which is scheduled, I think, on the 5th. So we look forward again. Thank you very much, and we hope this kind of collaboration will continue in all the years to come. Thank you again, Mike. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Chief.
Thank you. Thank you. So, okay.